disabled fly tire here. This is going to be another redfish fly video. Sorry about my last video, I know it was long. There's not a whole lot I can do about that. For me, tying flies is a process. So in the vise I have a Mustad 9174 BR and 1/0. The thread I'm using is going to be the Danville 210 in black. For this fly you're going to need some Magnum rabbit strips, EP Foxy brush, and some flash of your choice. I'll show you how to tie this, so let's get started. Oh, I take my thread and I start at the eye of the hook and start wrapping that back. And you go about 10 or so wraps forward, and then you can go ahead and cut your tag end off. I hope you guys can see this. The lighting is kind of funny. Alright, then just continue wrapping back. And this is a fly that I've tied quite a few of. I have several different variations in my box. But on this one we're going to do something a little different. So going just down the bend of the hook there. And I'm going to take some of my orange chenille and I'm going to do a little hot spot. And hopefully this video doesn't come out too long. But like I said, this is a process for me. I can't knock out a bunch of flies really fast. It's just impossible for me unless they're kind of small, which I don't tie small flies very often. So I'm gonna lay this down, trap it, and go ahead and secure that down. Just set that out of the way. Go ahead and cover up all this extra. And usually I would lay down a half hitch for using my vise, but since we're doing such a small hot spot, there's no need. Just progress your thread forward with some wraps, and then you can go ahead and build up a little hot spot without your thread moving too much. And then when you're ready to tie off, you just back wind. I like to try to get a good thread wrap on it, so I can go ahead and cut the material, and it makes it easier for me to tie in. So get it down with one, keeping tension on the thread, and try to get another one on it just to secure it. And we can go ahead and cut the rest of this off. And that just makes it a little easier to tie that down. Then the next material you're going to need is a bunny strip, and I like to try to make a nice little tie-in point for that. The bunny strips that I'm using, or the zonker strips, are these Magnum barred and chartreuse in black. And you want to tie it in fur down, because this fly will ride hook point up. And it's kind of hard because of the leather on the rabbit. It likes to spin, So I like to try to get a couple thread wraps over it, and I'll try to grab my bobbin where I can and give it a good tight pull of thread. Then flip it over and make sure it's sitting how you want it, because at the end of the day it's your fly. Try to roll this on. Once you get it how you want it, then go ahead and tighten it, tie it in. Take your thread up behind the eye, about right there. And what I like to do with rabbit strips is I like to super glue them. So I'll just take my super glue with a brush. Just brush some super glue on that thread, really lock it in. For the next step, you're going to keep your super glue close by. So we're going to tie in some lead eyes while that super glue dries. And you can take a paper towel and dab it off. I'm just going to let it dry for a minute while I work with my eyes. So for me, I need my forceps, and the lead eyes I'm going to tie in are some plain lead medium. Get these open. And like I said, that's how I have to get my lead eyes. I've tried to hold them with my fingers and it doesn't work, even though I wish it would. This is a pattern that you can tie an array of different colors. I've done black and purple, I've done chartreuse and black, I've done a chartreuse and rust. Just depends on what you want to fish. And like I've said, grabbing lead eyes with forceps, sometimes it's easy and I can do it right away, then other times it takes me a minute. And that's just how it is tying flies with no hand function. And that's another thing, you can vary the weight of your lead eyes with where you're fishing. You can, if you're fishing deeper, then you can go heavier. I fish a 10 weight, so I use medium to large, just for the area that I am in. Once you get that started, then you can start your X wraps, get those leveled out. Try to make sure they're as even as possible. Throw some figure eights in. And I always take my thread and come underneath, do a couple wraps. Oops, thread's coming off. There we go. look at them. If they're not straight, you can still move them. You want to get them as straight as possible before you super glue them in. And like I said, nothing's perfect, so don't sweat over putting lead eyes on. Take our super glue again. And put a little dot on the thread there. Make sure that they're not going anywhere. The flash I've used for this fly, it varies. On this particular pattern, I'm going to use this gold winging flash. I've used purple, I've used chartreuse, I've used ice dub. Just depends on what you want to work with. This is a really fine material, and it can get kind of messy. And I'm using gold on this color because what fish doesn't like gold? And with cutting this, same as the rest of the stuff I cut, I just have to lay it down, try to get it somewhere where I can get it, and go ahead and snip it off. Since the super glue's melt dry, we're going to take our thread, come right back by the zonker strip. And this first bit we're going to tie is going to be along the sides. So you got to tie it in. Make sure it's not sticking to your super glue like mine is. Try to take it and tie it in along the other side. That way you get some flash along the top of the fly. And you can come back and trim it to length. I'm going to take just a little more of this winging flash. Pull a little bit out here. And this stuff can get pretty messy. Once again, I'm going to cut this off. This clump, I'm going to tie right along the back of it. That way you can try to get flash 360 around the fly. I should have let my super glue dry first, so now that I have flash everywhere. And the tail, you can take it, kind of line it all up. I'm going to trim it just shy of the tail. That way you still get good movement in the water. Just like that. And being the fly is going to be hook point up, it has a little bit of a jig action to it. So whenever you strip it and that fly comes off the bottom, then you see all the gold glowing and shining on the bottom of the fly. Go ahead and take our thread and clean all this up. Try to get us a nice clean tie-in. If you have stuff stuck to your lead eyes like I do, then it's okay, it's just extra flesh. Doesn't have to be perfect. We're going to take our thread and come right back to the back of the fly. We're going to take a black EP Foxy brush. Hopefully this will be long enough. I'm going to try to fold the fibers back just where I have the wire where I can get some wraps on that. And just tie it right on the side of the fly and get some good tight thread wraps around it to keep that wire in place. And this is another step you could come through and you get super glue after you tie that in. I'm going to try to cover up a lot of that gold around that eye. And then come right to the right in front of the lead eyes and build a little up, and this is where I'm going to half hitch. Now I'm going to do a double half hitch and lay my bobbin out of the way. Now we need our handle pliers. And these EP brushes can be a little hard to grab with the hackle pliers, the way the fibers are going. And you just have to play with it for a second and you can get it. Just like that. And I like to try to take my thumb or my finger and just try to pull these fibers back as best I can for this first wrap. And then when you start palming it in, then you can take them and they're much easier to pull back. I'm going to try to do touching wraps with the wire. Try to get all this pulled back so I don't get too many trapped fibers. And just palmer this in. Making tight touching wraps with the wire all the way up to the lead eyes. Trying to pull the material or the fibers back with each wrap. We're going to go right to behind our lead eyes here. Take our brush, come up to in front of the lead eyes. We'll go ahead and tie that in. Give it a good tight pull of the thread. Then go ahead and take our hackle pliers off. some more tight thread wraps. Try to take that wire, pull it back over your lead eyes because it will cut your thread, and that just helps secure it. Pull it back forward and do the same thing. And I have just a little nub left, so I'm going to fold it back once again. Fold that backwards. And we're going to tie that in. Clean up the head a little bit. And the tying portion is done, so we can go ahead and whip finish. And you don't have to go crazy with your whip finish, because we're going to put some resin on that and lock it all down. Just make sure your thread's tight and your knot is cinched. And then we'll go ahead and cut that off. Cut our thread off. And I'm going to come through because I got a lot of fibers in the front, so I'm going to go ahead and trim those. Just cleaning that up a bit. And it doesn't matter, because you can have somebody that can help you with a lighter and burn off a lot of these hairs once you put your resin on, and the fly is perfectly fishable. A step I like to do is to take my bodkin and go through and pick out any trapped fibers. Just kind of straighten up the body of this. One of the things I like about the EP Foxy brush is it has a little bit of flash in it. It's got a little bit of purple and red, so it just adds to it. Try to brush that out as good as possible. A little harder to do too, but you can take a brush. Like if you had a dubbing brush, just come through and brush it out. I'm gonna go ahead and pull these fibers back a little bit. And I'm gonna grab my UV finish. And go ahead and lock the head of this fly down. zap that for a few seconds and lock everything down. And there you go. That is a redfish slider. Tie it in. You can tie this in many different patterns and colors. Don't be afraid to try it out. If you're new to this channel, please subscribe. If you like the video, or if you like this stuff, give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions or about material or how I do this stuff, please put it in the comments and I will get back to you. But until next time, y'all have a good one.